Welcome to 1 Million Cups Wichita. My name is Kenton Hansen. I'm going to start us off, but first I'm going to turn the music off. Thanks for coming again. Real quick, restrooms, which are apparently difficult to find, are like just past the entrances where you came in. So if you have to use those, that's where those are. And I'm going to make sure the music's off. Okay, great. I'm going to just get right to it and introduce Bill Ramsey from OrgO to kick us off. Bill Ramsey, OrgO.
I'm actually going to let Don talk first here because...
1 million cups.
Cup.
Hi. How's everybody?
Microphone.
My mic. Oh, that's right. He says we can't wander much. I hope we can a little bit, just a teeny bit. So, necessity, as we all know, is the mother of invention. I think Plato had that one wrong because for us, frustration is the mother of invention. And it's frustration about the communications within nonprofit board governance that has driven us to create OrgO. Now, I'm Don Grant. I'm sort of the big idea, the finance and the management guy.
I'm Bill Ramsey. I'm kind of the tech and business solutions guy.
And we are
OrgO.
OrgO. I'm going to apologize for the graphics. One of the asks we're going to have afterwards, a little help with graphics. Anyway, volunteers are people too. I mean, just because you're passionate about something and you want to give back to your community does not mean that your time is worth less than anybody else's. And I want to thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to present a challenge and the OrgO solution. We're going to tell you about OrgO and org-free, keeping nonprofit boards governing, volunteers volunteering, supporters supporting, and the community benefiting. And our primary stakeholders are those who run charitable organizations. That's all of us in here, volunteers. It's going to be free for those organizations. And we can still monetize this program. We're going to show you how we do that. Equally important as stakeholders are the consuming public and those who actively participate, or we're going to show you how we can get people to actively participate with the organizations that serve them. And OrgO is a tremendously scalable platform. The basic structure has unlimited virtual expansion potential. All of us here have probably volunteered in one way or another, particularly in this crowd. Who's been on a nonprofit board? Of course, everybody in here almost. The first time you show up at that first meeting, you're kind of wondering, well, where do I sit? Where are the bylaws for this place? Am I supposed to be at an event next week? How do I communicate? I can't put a face to a name of a staff member or of another volunteer on the board. Well, all of these unanswered questions waste your time. I'm going to let Bill demonstrate the OrgO solution.
So I'm going to go over some of the features of the OrgO solution, and I'll apologize to the cameras for the height disparity here. I know they have to lower the cameras a little. So the one really awesome thing about OrgO is that this is a software system that is actually designed for nonprofits. It's from the ground up, not adapted to a nonprofit like we're all used to. You have to get a piece of commercial software, force it to work the way that we need to. This one's designed for us from the ground up. So the awesome thing, we log in, first thing you get is the OrgO dashboard. The OrgO dashboard is going to give you all the information about your organization right at your fingertips. There's going to be an external news aggregator. It's going to go out across the internet, read what are people saying about your organization, bring that back in for one easy place for you to read it. We're going to have a personal action items, tracking, and to-do list. You log in, you're going to see what is waiting on me. What do I need to do to help move my organization forward? Click on it, help get it resolved, get things taken care of. There's going to be places to list out the appropriate roles, persons, staff, volunteers throughout the system so you can see if I need something, who is it I'm supposed to contact? You click on them, it gives you right there, it lets you email them, contact them however you need to. There's going to be, so you have a board meeting, and 2 weeks later, I'll give you an example, we had a horse from Cowtown died, and we had to have a meeting, special meeting for this thing. When's everybody available? It's always when is everybody available, and how many people here have had to use Doodle, been forced to use Doodle? Yeah, it's the most miserable program on the internet. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually allow you to sync all your calendars together into the system so somebody can log in and see exactly when everybody's available to get the meeting scheduled. Hey, everybody's available Thursday at 7. Can we do that? Great, let's go. Boom, frustration over. And we're going to have a really cool community calendaring portion of this that Dawn's going to talk about in a little bit. Very frequently on boards, you have a document, bylaws for instance. You're emailing those back and forth. There's 10 people involved. At the end of the discussion, we think, yay, we've got a final document, everything's done, and you realize you have 4 different versions of the final document because everybody's got something different and made different changes. We're going to take care of that with centralized document storage and tagging. So you're going to be able to store all your documents centrally on the system, tag them with multiple categories. For instance, you can say this is part of the new board member packet. This is part of the development committee, marketing committee, so that it makes it nice and easy and efficient to find everything you need to in your system. And there's some other stuff that's cool with this, and I'll get to that in a minute. We're going to be able to do votes. We have a horrible time doing voting outside of the board meetings. For instance, again, the Cowtown, the horse died. We had to have a vote. We had to call, we had to buy a conferencing time, everybody call in, have the conversation, and do a vote. It was very much a pain. We're going to have an efficient, effective way for everybody to log in and cast their ballot on how they want to vote. Very simple, very easy to do. Board discussions, very much like a Facebook feed, threaded discussions that the board can talk about any items that they need to. People can peruse those. And then awesomely, we're going to have some graphical reporting elements. You're going to be able to log in and see exactly how your board is doing. Is our donations going up? Or are they going down? How's our membership doing? Our volunteers, so on and so forth. Graphical, quick, easy. Future add-on modules enhancements that we're going to have to this. We're going to have fundraising and donation management modules, volunteer management modules, membership management modules, and all of these will have communications, collections, and document management systems built into them. We're going to have an umbrella management for parent nonprofits to be able to manage any nonprofits that are underneath them. They log into their parent area, they'll be able to see all of the child nonprofits. We're going to have a nonprofit connect so you can actually share information between nonprofits, only the information which you choose. Templates, log in for reports such as director report, agendas, minutes. You log in, you fill out your information, you file it, quick, easy, and done. I love this part. Automated workflows to create automated processes within the system. Back to the document storage. You create a new board member. We have a workflow set up. You create the board member, it automatically goes through.
I'm going to stop you right there just for a second because we did get to the 6 minutes.
Oh, that sucks.
And I know it sucks. The 6 minutes. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a trick here. We're going to open it up for questions. Someone's going to ask a question that's going to bail you out and let you explain this a little bit
All right,
more.
cool.
Does that sound good? Okay.
Ask a question about workflow.
So we're going to open it up for the community. This is the most important part, the most valuable part. This is where you ask questions and help refine and assist with this idea. So first question, anyone? Always count on Bob for a question.
Okay, so I'm Bob. The obvious question is you've been talking about, when this is going to be available. So this is under development, obviously. So when is it going to be available, and how are you financing doing all this? And then what's your marketing plan?
It's a great question. I'm going to let Dawn actually talk about the monetization of the product because there's a part that we haven't got to yet, and I'll just tell you that's the part where it's free for nonprofits.
Well, I think the monetization is not what you're asking. You're asking how we're going to get this thing started.
That's one. And then
Yeah.
secondly, do you view this as a nonprofit or as
Well, this is. I went online and watched a bunch of these, and some of them went 10 or 12 minutes. So I assumed that we would have a little bit more time because there's so much to crunch in here. The nonprofit. There's 2 organizations. There's OrgO and OrgFree. OrgO is a for-profit organization that owns all of the rights, all the patents, all the trademarks, all the bricks and mortar if we get to that point. OrgFree is going to be a separately governed nonprofit organization that is the conduit to get all of this information and all of the programs out to nonprofits worldwide. Does that answer your question for that part? As far as money, we are essentially doing this on our own to begin with. We are stuck right now with setting up the structure of the organization. We don't have the nonprofit set up yet. We don't have our ownership agreement set up yet. You're getting in on the very, very, very bottom floor of a concept that we put a lot of time into.
I love what you've talked about so far, and it kind of rings a bell for my previous experiences with nonprofits, and it feels like most of them struggle with making people feel appreciated and that their unique contributions matter as individuals versus big crowds of volunteers are needed to do kind of mindless, or not mindless, but just impersonal work. And so my question was, how do you see this kind of bridging the gap between the organization and the volunteers and making people feel more part of the team and more appreciated?
Well, that's huge. And he mentioned that we're going to have a volunteer wrangling element of this. It also will include some sort of acknowledgement. I mean, the first thing is, when you show up in an event, do you know who the people are? You don't know who's a volunteer unless they have a volunteer t-shirt on. So this puts a face to a name, and you can research and find out beforehand. And then also, when it comes to pats on the back, you can plan events. It'll pop up and say, did you remember to thank your volunteers? Or you can create letters and tag them and send them out. So that's a big part of this.
And to tack onto that, so one of the things that I've noticed that we have a problem with volunteers is actual efficient communications with volunteers. So what ends up happening is there's a distribution list that somebody's created somewhere, that the list of what they believe all the volunteers to be, and that's what they use. And if somebody else has to contact the volunteers, they don't have access to that distribution list, and they go off of what they believe it to be. It's frustrating for volunteers because they never feel like they're quite in the loop. With this system, what we aim to have in place is a place for volunteers to be able to check and see everything that's going on at any time, so we can include them in the process, which really is going to help that out a lot.
Great concept, having run a nonprofit before. It's certainly got a value. Do you have a way to capture the number of hours and the value of the in-kind contributions that come so they can be reported on your IRS 940 or your 990?
That will be within the. You're talking about volunteer hours,
Right.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
within the volunteer modules, everybody is going to have different levels of privilege as far as being able to access this entire database. And so volunteers will have a place that they can put in what they want. And that's getting back to your question, is if somebody's put in 800 hours and somebody's put in 20 hours, you can compensate them with hugs in a way that's more appropriate.
But you still need to capture that for a value for your revenue portion of the nonprofit. Is there a piece that does that?
All the
So if they're
information would be captured. I mean, the volunteers, when they're scheduled to do something, they were scheduled to be there. They can say, boom, here, I was there for this many hours. We can capture all the information needed and report back in any format that would be necessary.
And then just a side note on the IRS and the flow from a nonprofit to your OrgO, can't be a flow-through organization in my experience.
No, they are two separately governed organizations. And since you asked about monetization of this whole thing, we're going to offer the basic suite, the basic modules for nothing to all qualified nonprofits. Beyond that, we will have things like event planning modules, education modules, bylaw templates, that sort of thing. That will be an added cost that can be paid for on a monthly basis. In addition to that, the biggest thing that I'm most excited about that I didn't get to, but because you asked the question, I'll answer it for you, is a calendar, a community calendar. And it will be the go-to calendar for people who want to get involved. The biggest challenge that nonprofits often have is getting their word out and connecting with their communities and people not knowing that they exist. And this entire idea was born from when I was in Santa Monica, California in 2012, and I had nothing to do. I had no clients to take out that evening, and I got on to what was new at the time, Meetup. And I found an event. It was a debate watching party with a discussion put on by a nonprofit organization. I went to that. I donated money to that organization. I had dinner. We had a very spirited discussion about politics. I met a great group of people. The next morning, I was invited to another meetup group that did a hike in the Santa Monica Mountains. I joined them. We had coffee. And about 6 months later, one of those relationships became a client of mine. So can you imagine a place to go? You've got people coming to town, and you look, what's going on this weekend? And you can align with something that you have something in common with. And another element to this is the business hookup with the whole thing, piggybacking the whole thing. Industry, businesses can get involved. They can find out what's going on, what they might want to align themselves with as far as sponsorships are concerned. They may offer half off a dinner before an event or something. So there is just tremendous potential. And when I said that it is unlimited as far as the expansion is concerned, anything you can do on your phone or your computer can be done with this, with existing technology.
Hey, I'm a big fan of collaboration. I've lived it in my past life, but I'm a huge fan of 37 Signals Basecamp. Can you speak to the difference between Basecamp and what you're offering here?
Yes, I hate Basecamp. I hate it. So I'm the president of the Cowtown board, and we attempted to use Basecamp as a board communication and collaboration tool. It was an unmitigated failure, and I don't know if it had to do with the limitations of the system, if it had to do with not being able to train them as well. It was, in my opinion, it's complex for the average person to be able to go in there, and I couldn't find documents easily. It kept multiple copies of documents, so I couldn't just edit a document and save it back to the system and have one. I had 30 copies of bylaws, and it doesn't work for us. So Basecamp, while I think it's great for project management, it's not a board management tool. It's another commercial product that's being adapted to a nonprofit, and it doesn't work.
From my experience being on a board and working with nonprofit staff, and then as a board member, I know that we're all busy and overworked, and so adding another tool to an already kind of harried team could be a challenge. Do you see this being an additional tool, or is it going to replace existing tools that exist inside the nonprofit?
This is going to replace. So your nonprofit board you're on, every one of you have a different email address probably, right? It's not. So that becomes difficult to manage over time. Using the system, we make your information in the system. We put in your email addresses. When you send out an email to the board or to whoever, it automatically goes out to all of them. What we see is this taking place of all those different tools that you've tried to push together to try and make it work the way you want to, replacing them all and simplifying and making everything way more efficient for the board.
We got time for one more there, all right?
Are either one of you coders, or have you spec'd out anything yet, or begun any of the work on it?
We've not begun the work on the actual coding of the thing. The spec out I've started. I've spec'd out software development projects for 15 years now.
Right. I guess I meant, did anybody actually cost out the whole thing?
So I've done some basic cost estimates on what it would take for us to get this up and going for the basic modules for the software. As it stands, between systems that we would need for storage and hosting and development costs, probably $350,000 to get the base piece up.
Okay, thanks.
To ask the last question, what can we as a community do to serve you?
We're looking for people who want to be involved in this project. So you're on the bottom floor here. As we mentioned, we've got the ideas, we've got a concept, we've put hundreds of hours of work into this. We know how the basic structure of ownership. We need somebody who wants perhaps equity ownership to help us with the business structure is a primary thing, because the reason we haven't started with the project, we've got coders waiting to get their tentacles into this, but we want to make sure we're clear, because 20 years down the line, we don't want to have anybody come back and say, well, you told me this, you know. I've heard that story too many times. So we're looking for equity partners for that. I don't know if we're necessarily looking for coders right now, because we have a few that are lined up.
We're always going to be looking for
Yeah,
coders.
probably,
So.
probably right. But help with graphics. I mean, this kind of thing, because we're going to take this forward, and we want to make it presentable. And I felt like we were in a friendly crowd to bring up junk like this to put in front of you. I hope I'm right.
And to top that off, we do want to be in front of people like, I don't know, Kauffman Foundation, that may want to be interested in underwriting a project such as this. Somebody who sees the value of providing a tool to nonprofits around the world, something free to take care of all the problems that they're experiencing now. We're looking for help on how to make that happen. We think that there probably are some foundations out there that would be, look at this and say, hey, this is something we'd like to be involved in and help underwrite this. It's going to be free for life for nonprofits. The base module is theirs. This is not something that is going to make Don and I rich. This is something that's going to make the world rich as far as increasing the ability for nonprofits to be able to operate, right? That's what we're in this for.
And we're driven. We both are heavily involved in a lot of community efforts here, and frustrating as you know what, the communication that goes on, and we hope to be able to clear that up.
And next, it's my privilege to introduce our next speaker. Earlier today, I said hello to someone. They said, hey, you're Ted. And I said, well, yes, I'm Ted. And he said, wait, so you're Toby's brother? And so I was introduced. I'm Toby's older brother, but I'm being introduced as his brother. So I am very excited to announce Mutano, and they're going to pitch today. So give them a round of applause.
Thank you. That's a big moment. I don't think that's ever happened. So, my name's Toby Crewell. I'm really excited to present our company today, Mutano. About 3 years ago, I took a trip to Ghana, which is in West Africa, to visit an orphanage that had just taken in 8 boys. And as I was packing up for the trip, one of my first thoughts was to bring them a soccer ball. First thing we did when I got there, we started playing soccer. Just started out with those 8 boys and me. But over the first couple minutes of playing, all of the kids from the community were coming out of the woodworks and joining in on the game, to where we had like a 20-on-20 game going on. And it was a lot of fun, but it also really hit me at that moment that sports are a powerful force, that sports have the power to bring people together and to build community in a way that little else does. So over the past couple of years, I've started and organized multiple sports leagues, both here in Wichita and also when I lived in Texas. And through that experience, I've been able to see what actually makes sports awesome, and also recognize some of the problems that are in sports culture today. There's a common narrative in sports that says we need to win at all costs. I think many of us have heard that. And I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but the side effect of that the fun of playing sports is being taken out. Now with that mentality, kids and adults are competing to beat their opponent rather than to build community and to have fun. And so we've created Mutano as a platform to change sports culture. Mutano is a new sports apparel brand that represents a movement towards respecting everyone and showing what actually makes sports awesome. And this is why we've chosen our tagline as fairly made, fairly played. Now, we're fairly made because we've chosen to partner with a fair trade certified supplier who will be making Mutano's sports apparel. In an industry that's notorious for human rights issues, human rights abuses, our factory in Mutano, we've chosen to treat our workers fairly. So what fair trade means for the workers is that they're being paid livable wages, they have a much more supportive work environment, and most importantly, there's no child labor or forced labor in the production of any of Mutano's products. Being fair trade is really a cornerstone for Mutano because we want to create a brand that positively impacts everyone it touches. And this really starts with the workers who are making our products. But like I said, not only do we want to be a sports apparel brand, we want to represent a movement. And this is why we're also fairly played. Okay, so our message and how we're going to present fairly played is that we are not going to be highlighting the elite athletes like many of the big sports brands today. Our message is empowering the everyday athlete. So that everyday athletes are like the guy who plays noon ball at the YMCA over his lunch break, or the mom who plays volleyball at the New Wichita Sports Forum, or the engineering student at WSU who plays intramural sports. These are simply people who love to play sports, just like me, but realize that sports are an activity, not an identity. And we want to be a brand that really supports those people. Like I said, Mutano is a brand that's positively impacting everyone it touches through the production of our clothes, through the customers we support, and even through the revenue we create. A huge piece of really showing that change in sports culture that we want to represent will be by partnerships. We have a couple of partnerships set up with multiple sports organizations who are using sports to positively impact their communities. A good example of this is an organization out of Wichita called the Pickup Game. Jordan Harris is actually here. He's a good friend, and he's the founder of the Pickup Game. But basically, Pickup Game is using basketball to teach kids here in Wichita about their career options, and also just to counsel them on their self-value and their self-worth. We're excited to partner with them. We're going to help them try to launch a basketball league here in Wichita for kids who come from underprivileged families. We also have a partnership set up with a soccer organization in California, Here for Kids International, and then we hope to partner with League 42 out of Wichita as well. And more as we continue to grow. We really want to create a brand that is supporting these type of sports organizations. So where we're at now, we are currently in the sampling process of our first product line. Our first products will be a men's shirt, men's shorts, women's tank, and women's shorts. These will be our first 4 products. Once we complete the sampling process, which will be in about a month with our supplier, we will then launch a Kickstarter campaign. And for those of you who don't know what a Kickstarter campaign is, or a Kickstarter is, it's basically an online crowdfunding platform that people can use to launch new projects. We will be launching our Kickstarter here in about a month. It'll be a 30-day long Kickstarter. And for the numbers, if you want to hit that, we are looking at, we haven't got the exact number, but we're looking at raising in between $20,000 to $25,000 on Kickstarter. The reason we have to do this is that our fair trade supplier has a minimum order quantity that we have to reach. We don't have the cash flow to do that ourselves, so we're going to essentially use Kickstarter for pre-sales of our products, where people can go onto Kickstarter, they can order our products knowing they won't get them for a couple months. That will then give us the funding to run full production, which then we will send out products. After that point, we will then host e-commerce on our website to then sell products once we have full production in. Then we eventually hope to partner with existing retail chains as well. So that's kind of our growth strategy, but that's about it. We're Mutano. We do fair trade sports apparel, and we want to represent a change in sports culture. So thank you.
Hey, thanks guys. That was excellent. I wanted to clap in the middle of that. We're going to open it up to questions. Teddy's got the mic.
This is my co-founder, Benny Bowden, as well. I was flying through that. It's important to our brand. So,
forgive me if you mentioned this, but I was just wondering, as part of you're going to have you have your own brand, but are you going to be customizing it to the different local levels? Like, say, we have the Wichita Bulldog basketball team. Will you be putting like their logo and brand on that kind of stuff for individual teams, sports, things like that?
We've been looking into it and had a couple people come to us with that. The problem we are facing is that the minimum order quantity we have to reach, that is per style, per color. So we're doing one color on this first line. So teams don't want to play gray on gray. So eventually, as we grow, we hope to build more colors and then be able to support teams like that. So eventually, yes, probably not this first line. We have a couple partnerships where we might do a specialized screen print on the gray shirt. Just to we're working on that too, but eventually.
Can you speak to your marketing plan for the Kickstarter?
Yeah. Benny's our marketing guy, so he's been a huge piece, and we can tag team this. But
so we've been making a lot of connections so far with specifically in the niche of fair trade. There's a really big passion for what that's about and where it's going, and just social enterprises in general. So we've been trying to tap into a lot of those. We've talked to a lot of blogs that are going to be covering our launch of our Kickstarter. Several different places are going to be helping with that. And we're also just going to be creating content, doing some social media marketing, things like that. Really just going to blanket cover and try and get the word out there. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, we have about 10 fashion bloggers or social enterprise bloggers set up now that have committed to writing about us once we launch the Kickstarter. Another piece is the third-party organization that certifies our products as fair trade, which is Fair Trade USA. They have a pretty big consumer base that follows products they put out. And so they're going to do a big press release when we launch. And that'll be a huge key to getting our name out there as well.
You talked a lot about the Kickstarter and a lot of direct-to-consumer stuff, but my thought is that in order to scale quickly, you should get the big orders as much as you can. Have you thought about working with local or regional retailers of sports apparel or like races? Right now they produce tons of shirts that are all on sports apparel that could work gray on gray if they know that it's there, and it would be a good aspect for them to do that. Have you thought about that at all, or is that something you're looking at?
Yeah, so we're looking at a couple retail chains right now. We have one that is committed to partner with us. It's just a small-time social enterprise retail store. With big box retail stores, it'll be tough to. We really have to have a proof of concept for them to take us in, so that they know our stuff will sell. Once we get to that point, that'll be huge. With existing local chains, the reality is our price point, because we did such a small run of production in comparison, is not great. So when companies are used to getting shirts for $4 and then a $2 screen print and $6 for them, they can upcharge it to $15. They won't be able to do that. It'll be probably with the print $12 to $13 for one of our shirts, and that's not as great of a comparison. So if someone's open to doing that and they believe in our mission, we'll definitely talk with them. But I think that's been the main hindrance so far.
So another piece of that, just that offset of the cost that Toby's talking about, comes from the fair trade aspect too. So these factories are going through really intensive verification and processes that Fair Trade USA and other organizations put in place to make sure that they're doing everything fairly and putting the workers first in everything they do. And so there's a premium that comes along with that. And so we and all other fair trade brands are paying for that premium. And it's really just a social kind of, it's really something that we believe in, and that I think it's going to initially possibly create a struggle for things like that. But hopefully, our goal is to start to change that mentality, especially in the sports culture, because right now it's not great, just the way it looks and the way that people are treated as a result of just the fast-paced, giant, huge movements that have been created in sports. So,
yeah.
Since you're going to have everything kind of in a neutral color, have you considered using like a DTG printer or direct-to-garment printer for customization?
So our supplier will be doing our printing for this first line. We've considered like Are you talking about doing our own printing?
Well, you could have your main product, but then you can customize it. Like if you did it for a sports team, you can end up putting names and numbers on the back for each shirt, and since it's kind of a one-off.
Yeah. So with the amount of products we're probably going to produce this first line, it probably wouldn't warrant doing all the startup costs to buy a printer and everything. But in the future, once we get bigger, we have a more established brand, it would definitely be better for us to do that ourselves. Is that kind of what you're...
Yeah. At the beginning, if you need some help, I have a client that actually has the full setup for that. So.
Okay. Let's talk afterwards. That sounds great. Thanks.
So I also like the concept. Talk to me about the fair play, though. I'm involved with AYSO, love their mission, vision stuff. So do you have a statement worked out, a criteria for the people you partner with? How are you going to vet that out, and what's your guidance going forward?
Yeah. So we don't have a direct impact model set up where, for instance, Tom's is a direct impact where you buy a pair of shoes, you give a pair of shoes. We don't really have that set up because we don't have any revenue yet. So right now it's just connections. Like I connected with Jordan because I just saw what they're doing and met with him, and I feel like that was enough to vet him out and see that his heart is in the right place. I think eventually we will set up criteria that just so that organizations can know this is generally what we're looking for. Generally, I'll tell you what we're looking for is just organizations who aren't, I see a lot of sports organizations whose goal is to get people college scholarships through sports. And I think that's not what sports are about. Sports have the ability to teach such a deep level of values, of respect, of how to respond to adversity, many of the things we've heard about sports. And I've seen organizations use sports to teach such deeper values. And so we're looking for those. Generally, people who are helping underprivileged kids or families or certain parts of anyway, that's basically what we're looking for. But no, we don't have any criteria set up currently. Yeah.
What's Mutano mean?
Great question. Teddy warned me this would be coming. So Mutano means a couple things. Mutano means change in Greek, so we're changing sports culture. It also means methane in Italian, generally. And our logo, is the chemical compound of methane. My wife is basically a scientist, so she put that together for us. But yeah, so we say we're fueling a change in sports culture. It's kind of a dual meaning. Mainly, we like the sound of it. We like the way it rolled off the tongue and the way it fits in with most sports brands. So, yeah.
You're the anti-Nike.
In a sense.
We weren't going to say it.
Yeah.
Is your primary market team sports, or do you plan to market to like runners and triathletes as well? Because the numbers across the nation, especially for like average, like you were describing, dads and moms and others, running in triathlon, those numbers are huge. And I could see an automatic market in Wichita, just with the communities that are being formed here around like Go Run, Wichita Triathlon Team. I mean, I'm sure they would be very happy to receive the gear.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, our products that we're making now probably aren't the best fit for running because they're going to be a little bit heavier, a little bit looser. I'm not a runner, but I really respect people who run, and I'd love to be a brand that really supports them. I don't think we're necessarily niched into just team sports. Really, any athletic pursuit we want to support. Our products aren't great for that right now, but we hope to really expand into other products. So, yeah.
You can run in our stuff, though.
You can, yeah. But if you run a triathlon, I don't know if you'd want this stuff.
Well, the
so.
girls' gear seemed like it looked more like running stuff. The guys looked more like basketball stuff.
Yes, yeah.
I just have a quick question.
Steven.
What would you say your core belief is, and how do you plan on operating within that?
Yeah, so I guess we've put together a list of core values. One is we want our brand to positively impact everyone it touches. And so we need to learn how to do that better and better over time. A lot of big companies there's a lot of studies about it where they start with a great heart and great mission. Then over time, as it gets more profitable, that mission drops down as profits raise up or values drop. And it goes down and then it comes back up once there's a consumer response to, hey, that's unethical, change that. So they go in this dip. Our goal is to continually go up and treating people with respect and positively impacting people. Another core value of ours is we've received a ton of help throughout this process, and a core value is to offer help twice as much as we ask for it. So people are helping us all the time. We're trying to keep up by offering help to other people throughout that process. A huge part of that will be partnering with sports organizations. So those are two core values.
That was the last question from the crowd. And for you guys, as a community, what can we do to help you?
Yeah. I love this question that we asked this year at 1 Million Cups.
Helped you with your Kickstarter for sure, but what else?
Yeah, Kickstarter is huge. So we're proud to be a brand from Wichita. We actually wrote a blog post this week. We hope some of you guys saw it because we paid for Facebook ads, but it was 12 active things to do in Wichita, and we're proud to be from the active culture of Wichita. Obviously, a huge key to our success will be having a successful Kickstarter, but even more than that, or just as much as that, will be people who talk about our brand and share what we're doing and share our mission. We really believe that Wichita can be a hotbed for social innovation. And I think what's going to take to establish that is a brand, social impact brand like Mutano, to really get off the ground to show what can come out of Wichita. And so we need people to follow us on social media, subscribe to our email list. We have an iPad up there. You can subscribe to our email list if you like. Never mind, it's right here. But just engage with us on social media. I'm sure many of you are athletes or know athletes. And so share the message, share our mission, because we need a wider reach to really have a successful Kickstarter. So obviously back us on Kickstarter, but even more, if you believe in our mission, if it agreed with you, then really share it to a wider consumer base. That's what we need.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Well, thank you for letting us have another successful 1 Million Cups. We love seeing all the new faces, another full room. Keep inviting your friends. Like we said, we'll have some changes in location. Please come and sign up with these guys. This is great. I can't wait to buy some shorts. I also respect runners. And thanks for coming, guys.